Hey guys, how's it going? This is Jake over from the Brotherhood account. For this week, we're talking about dating while trans and dating while transitioning. Before I get into this topic, though, I like to give a quick disclosure about language. I may or may not use terms like vagina, penis, breasts, but I will be using labels such as gay, straight, lesbian, bi, things like that. I don't like to label people or put them in a box. That's not the type of person that I am, but just for the sake an argument for this video, that's what I'll be doing, just so then we're able to collectively categorize people into little tiny boxes so we know what we're talking about. Before we get into this video, though, I'd like you guys to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel that you're on, as well as our Instagram account. And without further ado, we're gonna jump right into it. Alrighty, so dating while trans. Fellas, or anybody, dating is hard. It doesn't even matter if you're straight, lesbian, bi, whatever the fuck it may be. Dating is definitely hard. For the one sole fact of no one is real anymore. I don't know what's gone on with this generation, but like everyone just wants that quick physical connection and then they're gone. That's it. I have seen many relationships end very quickly, and it just kind of all comes to that whole physical presence and that whole Instagram presence. You know what I mean? I don't post pictures of my girlfriend all the time on Instagram. She doesn't do the same thing. It doesn't mean we don't have a wonderful relationship outside of media. It has nothing to do with that. But I do find nowadays dating in general is just very hard because everyone wants to just fuck, and everyone just wants to plaster a bunch of pictures that aren't even maybe real, I guess. They just want to post their quick happy times and not be that. But I'm not really going to get too much into that. Although the whole physicality of it, I definitely think is a bigger issue in our society, especially when it comes to dating trans people or dating people who identify as trans. And the reason being is because I kind of feel like right now, and not even like my own thoughts and opinions, I've actually seen this on the internet and on Instagram and Facebook, that people are being used and kind of just like experimented with. So before I came out as trans, or even though I even knew the word trans, I would definitely say there was a little gap for girls who identified as straight before coming over to like our side of the whole lesbian thing, and that was called the butch lesbian. So they would date men, and then they would date like a butch lesbian, and then they'd make their choice if they're straight or if they're gay. That's kind of how it worked before. And unfortunately, it's kind of come over to us. So it's kind of like now they've dated the butch one, they're like, okay. Or now it's kind of, they need to date someone who's trans because we look like men, but we have, that body part. Some of us do, some of us don't. So like, don't think that every trans dude has what they had at birth, because that might not even be the case. But for me personally, I don't have any surgeries done, so for this scenario, this would actually work for me. And I have heard of other people that have been used this way because, again, they don't want to be outcasted by society. So dating a trans man is almost like more safe, I guess. I wouldn't say comfortable, more safe. But then that whole sex part kind of comes in, and it's like, okay, well, is this something I can really do, or am I just doing it because I want to see, but I don't want to date a girl and be like, outed as a lesbian and things like that. That's just kind of like how I'm seeing things on the internet, as well as the whole thing of this one guy, he kind of posted, and he was very upset that the majority of the people that he's dated wanted to date him while he still looked girly, or like a butch lesbian, I guess. But as soon as he wanted to go through surgeries and start testosterone, they didn't want anything to do with him. And I really feel for that. That's absolutely horrible, and it sucks, to be honest. But trying to look at it from an outsider's perspective, if you're dating someone who has a preference, I can kind of see where they might not want to be with you anymore. For an example, for myself, I dated a girl who, actually all my girlfriends I dated before have been straight, except for my very first girlfriend. But the second girl I dated, she was straight in high school, the high school straightness, whatever. And I was still a woman with her, and we identified as a lesbian couple, and she ended up staying with me throughout my transition. But she definitely had an opportunity to be like, hey Jake, I'm into women, I don't like men, I'm sorry I can't be with you. That's a very shitty thing to say, for sure, 100%, but I kind of understand because, you know, even though I want to be accepted and loved and appreciated, and I definitely do believe that everyone deserves respect, dignity, self-worth, and kindness, it doesn't always fall into preference. So what I'm saying is, like, she could have said, I have a preference to be with women, and because you don't want to identify as a woman, I don't want to be with you. And as crappy as that is, I kind of get it, because we're all human. We all have a preference of what we like, and I would totally understand it. That didn't happen. She ended up dating me throughout my transition, and she ended up identifying as pan and stuff like that. I don't know if she identifies like that anymore, but that's just how it was back then. My girlfriend I'm dating now, I'm not going to get too much into her sexual orientation or anything like that, just because that's kind of like what we're going over next week. But again, she dated a guy and was curious to date women, just never did, and then started dating me, and it's just, there was just never an issue kind of about my physicality, meaning like down there and like everything else. It just, there was never an issue for it. But I do understand, though, if a woman that was straight came up to me and was like, I can't date you because you're trans. Of course, that's ignorant, and it's very heartbreaking, and it kind of hurts to know that maybe you wouldn't want to be in a relationship with me just because of the way that I identify. But at the same time, I can understand why. And the reason being is because as humans, one of our things that we like to do is have sex. And that's definitely one of the forefronts in our imaginations, or even in our questions before we date someone who's trans. Kind of, you know, what's in your pants? What have you gotten done? You know, what kind of surgeries do you got going on for you? So I do understand, if a straight woman said they didn't want to be in a relationship with me. Probably because they solely like to just have sex with a dick. I have never run into a woman that has ever said that. I'm sure maybe you guys have, but I just never did. I kind of feel like women are a little bit more accepting about their sexuality and more curious about it than men. So I've never kind of dealt with a woman not wanting to try it out. But again, that is kind of a shitty thing, because like, we're not experiments, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, everyone is human, and maybe they didn't mean to use you, but like, you know, ones, if they start dating you, had sex, and then they're like, oh, this isn't what I want, you know, that would hurt, obviously, in a relationship. And I totally get these stories that I'm hearing on Instagram, and I feel for you. But as an outside perspective, you can't hate that person, you know, you can't shame them because they have a preference, you know. And I do see that a lot on the internet. These people are getting very upset that not everyone wants to date everyone, not everyone's accepting, and we need to stop shaming people because they have a preference of who they want to date and who they want to have sex with. And I think that kind of goes far beyond the whole trans community as well. I have straight black female friends who have told me I'm not attracted to white guys, you know. I'm not going to be offended by that because that's their preference, you know. I'm not going to be like, oh my god, you're a piece of shit, like, you should just love everyone for everyone. Like, as much as I want that to happen, it's just not going to happen because we're human and we all have preferences or things that we like. Again, like I've said though before, everyone does deserve dignity and respect and kindness and self-worth. And if you're taking that away from someone, yes, I definitely think you're an asshole. But if you have a preference, I don't think you're an asshole, and I don't think you should be shamed on the internet because you want to date Tom with a vagina, or you want to date Sally with a penis, or you want to date Frederick that has a dick. You know, like, it just doesn't matter. Just date who you want to date, and if you have a certain preference, there shouldn't be an issue. For me personally, I have always had that questionability about being trans and not wanting to date everyone. For some reason, I've had a few friends ask me, like, why I'm not pan. You know, like, why do I not want to date everyone regardless of their sexual orientation? And I think that's kind of like really blindsided, because just because I identify as trans or I'm a part of the LGBT community doesn't automatically make me pan and make me want to date everyone or anyone because of who they are. Like, that's just not how it works. I'm still a human being and I still have a preference. Yes, I'm transgender, identify as a man, and I like women. That's just me. That's just me personally. And I don't think that I need to be ashamed of it because I have a preference. You know, no, I wouldn't date a man. I don't have that desire to be with a man. You know, I don't need to justify this sort of feeling. You know, I'm just not sexually attracted or physically attracted or even emotionally attracted to men. You know, there's just nothing about them that I'm like, oh, wow, you're amazing. Like, no, that's just not me, okay? Like, but on the flip side of that, I have had people say, okay, well, what if they were a trans female, you know? Okay, well, that is hard, again, because I've never been in that situation. I've only been in my situation where I'm the transgender person, dating people who are cisgendered. And I think it kind of depends, really. Like, that question can kind of go different ways, you know? Am I still Jake, who identifies as a trans man, or am I a cisgendered male dating someone who's a transgender female? It kind of depends, I guess. Although I am trans, would I date a transgender female? Yeah, why not? But again, to be completely bluntly, openly honest, I don't like dick. I don't like penis. I don't want to have sex with one. I would definitely fall in love with that person for their spirit and the emotional bond and the physical bond. But when it comes to physicality and intimacy, I don't know how strong of a bond that would be. And I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with that person because I wouldn't be able to give them my all. And we wouldn't have this connection, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to limit myself. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, I can't date you because you're a trans female. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I feel like I wouldn't be able to give my all to that person. But like I said in the very beginning of this video, I don't ask people what's in their pants. I have no idea who's trans and who's not trans. I mean, sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. But, you know, if I fell in love with a woman who is trans and they had a penis, am I going to stop myself from experiencing the ultimate love? You know what I mean? Just because they have a penis? Probably not. You know, I'm going to explore my options and things like that. But again, like I said, I do have a preference. And I do think it would be a little bit hard. But again, I wouldn't want to turn that person away just because of what's in their pants. You know? And I think a lot of the times with transgender people, that's kind of where it almost gets kind of confused, you know, when people say what's in your pants. People automatically assume that's just preference, when it doesn't have to always be preference. It could also kind of mean like, you know, what does it mean to me, you know? For an example, like if I dated, okay, I'm gonna use me as an example. My girlfriend, I'll use an example. She identified as straight before. She's had curiosities and sexual attractions and physical attractions to females, and has never done anything with it. Again, this is next week, we'll talk about it. But it's kind of going back of like, how would she identify with being with me, depending on what's in my pants, you know what I mean? Like, which one is it? Is it the way I physically present myself and the way I identify? Or is it what's down there? You know, is she straight or is she a lesbian? Like, you know, and that's kind of like, that's kind of what I mean by when people say what's in your pants. It doesn't always necessarily mean I have a preference and I will or will not date you, but it could also kind of mean that whole what's in your pants, because what does that mean for me? You know, how do I identify based on what you have, kind of thing. And again, that's a very touchy topic. We will get more into that next week. But for this week, personally, I don't have a problem dating a transgender female. I probably would not date a man just because I would not feel physically attracted to them in the first place to even have a connection with them. And that's totally fine. You're still valid if you don't want to have sex with everyone. So we need to stop really shaming people for that. You know, it just doesn't really make any sense to me to shame other people because they have a preference or because they want to have sex with certain people or not. But yeah, so that's it for me in this topic. If you guys agree or disagree, doesn't matter. If you guys have certain comments or questions about anything that we've talked about, make sure you guys comment down below, and then we can kind of discuss it. I love hearing your guys' opinions and different perspectives on things, even just because like sometimes maybe I haven't even thought about it, and then you guys say something, I'm like, oh wow, like that's really interesting. Like I never looked at it that way, and I really do appreciate when you guys do that, especially on my own personal account when you guys message me and things like that. So make sure you guys are keeping that line of communication open, and yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to me, and stay humble, guys. Thank you.